Let me start by saying thank you for coming along to, I hope, what's going to be an interesting short tutored tasting. The area that we're talking about of South Germany, there's a map of Germany here. We are talking about this South Germany being the area of Baden-Wurttemberg. So essentially what you're going to find is that this area is a lot warmer than other areas of Germany. As a result, the musts tend to be a little bit riper, and at the Pinot Noir tasting and the Riesling tasting yesterday, the points that we were coming across each time is that you get a slightly fuller bodied, richer, and certainly drier style. So the acidity levels might not be quite so high. The wines have a little bit more substance, a little bit more weight to them. And these, I think, are interesting wines for the UK. We're going to kick in straight away with a grape variety called Samtrot, which is absolutely unique to Württemberg. You won't find this grape variety in Baden, only in Württemberg. There are 880 hectares of Samtrot in Württemberg. So we're not necessarily talking about something so obscure that you have to kind of, hunt here, there and everywhere to find an example. This is 880 hectares, is a lot of vineyards. The grape variety is a mutation of Pinot Meunier. So the Pinot Meunier grape, one of the Champagne grapes, which the Germans for years in this area have called Schwarze Riesling, the black Riesling. It's a slight misnomer. There's no connection with the Riesling. I think it's better to call a Pinot Meunier Pinot Meunier. But I think the fact that they were calling it black Riesling gives us the impression and lets us see how well it was regarded. Riesling was the great white grape, and in Württemberg, Pinot Meunier was their equivalent in terms of quality of Riesling, so they were calling it the black Riesling. So, back to Samtrot. Samtrot, mutation of Pinot Meunier from 1929, first identified in about 1929, and isolated and bred probably at Weinsberg viticultural station and school. And by 1958, it was authorised for plantation. So it's a grape that's been around for 70, 80 years, something like that. When it was authorised for plantation in 1958, although it's a mutation of Pinot Meunier, the character of the grape is much more like Pinot Noir, because Pinot Meunier is an centuries-old mutation of Pinot Noir. You know that the Pinot Noir mutates and changes its character here, there, and everywhere. So here we have a mutation of Pinot Meunier that's gone back in the direction of Pinot Noir. So it was actually recognised as a clone of Pinot Noir in 1958. So any of these wines, this wine that you're about to taste, could legally be labelled as Pinot Noir, but it isn't. It's Samtrot, and I'm telling you that the real origin of Samtrot is as Pinot Meunier. It's quite a low-yielding grape variety, quite early ripening, quite low-yielding, and in this region it's often made in a soft, sometimes even sweet style. Samtrot translates as red velvet. That's the translation of Samtrot. It means red velvet. And sometimes the style of wine that they will be making will very much resemble that description. So here we have, this is from the Weinsberger town, the valley around the town of Weinsberg, which is near Cleebronn. And just to mention something I mentioned yesterday, quite often the young winemakers in Württemberg and Baden will have done some training or made vintages in New Zealand, and New Zealand winemakers are coming to Baden and Württemberg, to South Germany, to make vintages there. So there's a major connection between these two countries, and down to the point that the assistant winemaker that made this wine actually worked to harvest at Martinborough Vineyard with Clare Mulholland in Martinborough. So you're looking at a Pinot Noir family grape, Samtrot, made not particularly oaked. There's a little bit of older, large cask here, a food type, not Barrique. So give you a moment to taste the wine, make your notes on it, and then I'll be back with wine number 2. I'm just going to taste it myself. Real Pinot family characteristics, major domination by strawberry. I think strawberry for me, a real strawberry flavour, relatively soft. That's the first one. The second wine we're going to try is from Württemberg's grape variety, Lemberger. There are 1,600 hectares of Lemberger growing in Württemberg. You will find 1 or 2 Lemberger grapes growing in Baden, but this is essentially a Württemberg grape variety. But it is also a grape variety of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. So this is not limited solely to South Germany. In Austria, it's called Blaufränkisch. This is the same grape variety as Blaufränkisch. In Hungary, it's known as Kek Frankos. And in northern Italy, again with the same link up Austro-Hungarian, it's called Franconia. So there's 4 countries there, all grow this same grape variety. Here we have Lemberger. We're going to come around and serve you this wine now. And this wine is from a cooperative cellar in the village of Rosswag. Fantastic setting for the vines. They have about 80 hectares of a 1-in-6 south-facing slope, terraced. And this wine is called 401 because there are 401 steps from the bottom of the vineyard where vines are growing to the top of the vineyard where vines are growing, which gives you a kind of idea of the scale. We're not looking here at an oaked version. This is to show you what young Lemberger tastes like. And I did promise I would just touch upon a winemaking point, which is kind of quite interesting, I think, and not always talked about, which is to do with heating of must. And some people like to keep quiet about this, and they sort of almost feel embarrassed about it. But for making soft, early drinking red wines, what can sometimes happen is that you don't just macerate the must prior to fermentation. You actually heat that must a little bit. And at some stages that might be at about 65 degrees centigrade, or 8 hours, something like that, then gently cooling it down again and leaving it to macerate more. But sometimes there is heating for a very short period of time at about 85 degrees centigrade, but we're talking about 2 minutes, no more than 2 minutes. And what they are out to achieve here is really to extract the fruit side of the wine. So Germany would have traditionally fermented and traditionally made red wines, and they would call those Weinsberger. That's the traditional, typical European way of making red wine. And here we have some of the heated must on show to get this lovely fruit character to the wine, but to make for a relatively early drinking version of Lemberger. If you're interested, I thought we might finish with a Barrique aged Lemberger with a little bit more complexity. But here, for relatively easy drinking, we're talking about a wine round about the £10 mark retail, something like that. So here's your first look at Lemberger. Let me just try the wine. I think what a lot of people in the UK are quite surprised about German red wine. They've probably not had much experience of drinking German red wine. Yesterday we were looking at Barrique aged Pinot Noirs and complex wines. Here's straightforward red wine. What's the alcohol we're talking about? 13.5% alcohol. South Germany has the sunshine and the warmth to ripen up red grapes like this. Lemberger always, for me, has a slightly pollen-y characteristic. Pollen, the slight floral side to red wine. It sometimes reminds me, if you have time later, come and try a few more. Sometimes reminds me a little bit of Zinfandel. It's got that slight sort of wild card Pinotage or Zinfandel, slightly floral, leafy, pollen-y style, which is actually really kind of quite attractive. Wine number 3, which we're now going to come and serve you. Now this may be a first for you. Thank you very much. Let's get my dates dead right on this. This is a grape variety called Acolon, a Württemberg grape variety. We have on the stand 2 wines from the state domain at Weinsberger, which is the viticultural school where people are trained how to grow vines, how to make wine, and part of that school is research into breeding, crossings, new grape varieties. And this grape variety, Acolon, was bred in the state domain at Weinsberger in 1971, so it's a relatively recent grape variety. There are 217 hectares planted in Württemberg, so 217. It was bred as a crossing between Lemberger, which you've just tried, and another Württemberg grape bred at Weinsberger called Dornfelder. So Acolon is a cross between Lemberger and Dornfelder, T-O-R-N, Dornfelder. And I really like this grape. I find it really interesting for the UK. It's not terribly complex, but it comes, I think, with the pedigree to work in our market. We're again looking at 13.5. The 2008 vintage was 14%. So people who've been brought up here drinking Shiraz and those style of New World wines can relate to this. The cooperative that makes this is Heuchelberg. They have 80 hectares of this, 80 hectolitres per hectare is the yield, and they have planted, I should know this, they've got 22 hectares of Acolon planted, so that's 22 hectares on hills. Yes, this is a region that is full of winemaking villages. Hillsides abound. It really is like visiting Burgundy. It's hillsides everywhere. This will be on the slopes. Yeah, I'm sure. So your first perhaps encounter with a grape variety called Acolon. It's very early ripening, so this is the real advantage of this grape. We were saying that early September, I think, in Jan's vineyard in the 2009. So early ripening, and if English winemakers are messing about with Dornfelder, I think it could be really in their interest to have a look at Acolon. And we'll be going on in a minute to try Lemberger and Acolon together, which is, I think, an interesting sort of way of looking at things. So here's the Acolon. Lovely colour, which is coming from the Dornfelder part of its breeding. Should still be getting that slight Polony Lemberger connection.
How much would that be retailing?
You should still get that slight sort of Lemberger family because, yeah.
How much would that be retailing?
Yeah, I actually have an independent wine merchant of my own, and this wine is probably my best-selling red wine. People have no preconceptions about what German reds taste like. You give them this and they're sold on it straight away. Here's something a little bit different. We don't know this grape variety. Invite your favourite knowledgeable wine person to a dinner party and say, do you know Acolon? And I think the blankness on most wine experts' faces is, really noticeable. Yeah, this would be, I sell this in the shop at £9.99 a bottle retail. So it's under £10 a bottle retail in the UK. And at that kind of price, I think it's an interesting style to propose. Yeah. Yeah, there's a sort of, in fact, we're going to go on now to wine number 4. Another cooperative. This is the cooperative at Cleebronn and Güglingen in Württemberg. These are all Württemberg producers today. And there's a little bit of oak here, a little bit of use, not over oak, but a little bit of oak. And I think we're in a situation where we've got about 70% of Lemberger, 30% of Acolon. And for me, what's kind of quite interesting, Lemberger comes with almost a suggestion. In Austria, Blaufränkisch, they often refer to a possible connection to Sangiovese, so that Lemberger can be quite Italian tasting. And then Acolon comes with a riper, more New World feel to it, a softer feel to it. Put the two together and you get an interesting style like this Neo 2010 that we've got at the moment. And I would think, if we're talking Shiraz, I sometimes think that Lemberger would be the Shiraz part and Acolon would be the Mourvèdre part. And you'd actually blend them in the kind of percentages that you would blend Shiraz and Mourvèdre. And I think going further into the future, Acolon's not really been recognised for the quality that it can produce. I think there may be some garagiste wines with those blends, this blend of Lemberger and Acolon together. I don't know if anyone else can see this slight Italian sort of characteristic here. Yeah. Yeah. Now, on your list there, that's the list. If anyone is interested, would you like to look at one extra Lemberger with some Barrique age to it? So if you don't mind, call on number 5. We're going to show you this wine here, which is called sorry. No, you got it here. Yeah. It's called Liaison. Liaison dangereuse avec une bouteille de Lemberger d'Allemagne du Sud. Voilà. This is Liaison Barrique 2009. It's obviously trocken, it's a dry wine again. So that's the wine that's about to be served to you. Yeah.
So much more tannin.
Yes, yeah. Well, yeah. The other was a soft, young version. Didn't need food. I think this is asking for some food. Yeah, keep it as well. Yeah, of course. Yeah. So, thank you. I hope you thank you for turning out. I think we were expecting a good turnout for Pinot Noir. We were expecting a good turnout for dry Riesling. But we thought possibly this might be less well attended. But it's good that you're open to these grape varieties, which are not massively available on the UK market at this moment in time, but which are just starting to be, I think. So thank you for attending. Yes, it's called Liaison. There it is. Barrique, Lemberger 2009. So it's a Lemberger. It's been in Barrique 10 months, I think. You tell me. 10 months in Barrique. And that would be a fair amount of new oak, would that be?
It's new oak and second and third use.
Yeah, first, second and third year oak in Barrique.
How much this experimentation goes on breeding a new grape variety? Continue.
Germany is very, very important in terms of breeding and, clones and Geisenheim is the best, is possibly the best known, but here. But Weinsberg in Württemberg is just as important. And tomorrow afternoon, I'm doing a tasting here of some South German wines with Indian food, with some strong hot curry. And I'm not inviting you for lunch or anything, but we will be tasting minuscule portions of some quite strong curries. And in that, we'll be starting with Kerner, which is a white grape, which is again a Württemberg grape bred at Weinsberg. So that's another. So that's something that's happened in terms of breeding as well. And that's been around for a while, Kerner.
Like a breeding program.
Yeah, all the time.
Sort of a market.
Not really, more really as an academic research, writing papers, and it's a university state-funded DEFRA equivalent, but specifically on wine.
Something that's successful goes with Indian food. Suddenly you expand that into.
Yeah, there's a different style. The sweeter reds that will go with the food. So anyway, that's me finished. Thank you for attending, and I hope you've enjoyed the wines. Thank you very much. Thank you. And do stay and try some of the other things that are on. There's 42 wines on the stand. Thank you.